Hello, everybody. I'm Bob226, aka Josiah. Today, I have two special guests with me. The one and only Keg. Keg, how are you doing today, man?
Good, man. Big slate. We got to get after it.
Big
Tons
slate,
of news.
a lot to get into. And then we have a new guest, Mutt. Mutt, can you tell the audience a little bit about what type of games you play, a little bit about your sweet spot, and go from there?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me today. So I'm mostly tournament play, MME guy. More on FanDuel, and then I'm big on tiers on DraftKings. That's been my bread and butter probably the past 2 years. Up big on tiers. That's probably my like little niche that I love the most, especially like the smaller slates.
Nice.
And that's one thing that people that that you're not members out there, and you're not going to probably get that anywhere. Mutt does our tier notes for the main slate and night slate. So if you want access to those sheets, man, you got to jump in and join because you're not going to get that crap anywhere else.
One of the few, if the only ones that have tiers. 100%. Definitely night tiers. I think we're the only only site.
You're not getting anything better. So another reason just to join with everything that we got going on.
Yeah, and you're also always in the chat and Discord answering people's questions as well. So definitely a lot of help there. Before we dig into this massive slate, let's look at yesterday quickly. Yesterday was a pretty good slate. I know we had some members taking down tournaments, so congrats to everyone who did well there. Along with that, I think we were on a lot of these calls. The only real surprise for me was Chuma Okeke. Guys, were you guys on Okeke at all? To me, he was the only real surprise in this slate. Were you there? What got you on him, Mutt?
It was mostly Ross being out, and I knew it was going to be between him and Caleb Houston. So, because Chuma had like 2 games before that when Ross was in, when he did like okay, he had like that 15 to 25, and then he's just an explosive player. Like if he gets hot, he can like grab a rebound, take it down the other end, dunk it, corner 3. That's just the type of player he is. Plus he gets like steals and blocks, which is what you want on FanDuel.
And that's all he did yesterday. Yeah, he was crushing. And then Aaron Gordon, he had a great performance. I was around field weight on Aaron Gordon, so I was fine with that. I was surprised Clay didn't make the Nuts line just because he had a really great performance yesterday. But outside of that, Army performed well. I don't want to spend too much time on this just because we have so much to dig into today. But congrats to the winners yesterday, and nice Okeke call, Mutt.
Well, it was a GPP. I'm not going to say he was core or anything. It was just like if you want to get different, here's your guy.
And just a little info out there, and we're talking about Orlando Magic, just to throw it out there. Jamal Mosley, the coach of Orlando, he's come out and said they haven't been able to do it because they've been so injured. But he's basically said at the beginning of the year, because they're so young, he's going to give people a chance to learn, like Bowl and stuff like that. But if they're struggling or they don't do the right thing, they'll yank them dudes in a hurry. And he's talked about that. So it's just good to know that, like, those guys, like, especially on 2-game slate like that with the Okeke, like if guys are struggling a little bit and if a guy gets hot, he's going to run with it. And he's talked about it. So, on those 2-game slates now, on these slates like this, man, you didn't know.
No
on slates like that, it maybe think about taking some more Orlando bench pieces, and hopefully some of those guys don't play.
Yeah, like yesterday was pretty easy when I back tested. All I had to do was go back and increase my exposure to him slightly, and I started getting closer to like top 10 lines. So you didn't even have to be that overweight on him just to have a decent night.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
He was in the nuts for the tiers lineup too. He was in tier 6. I had him in a few.
Nice.
All right, guys. So now we're going to get to this gigantic slate. There's a ton of news information that we can talk about when we get to those games. Overall, in general, how are you feeling about this slate as a whole, outside of just overwhelming? Keg, any just general thoughts on large slates like this?
I generally like to play a ton of cash on slates like this just because there's so many different avenues. But hashtag caveat, whatever, on this slate, with all the injury news that we're going to have some major chalk pieces, and we'll get into it. But, like, I mean, how in the heck is Melton 4,400 and Maxey 6,500 on DraftKings with no Harden and Embiid just probably coming back and is questionable? And even if he does play, like plays like that, it's just, they're just too cheap, man. And I know they're playing the Knicks and they don't play fast, but even then they're going to get up a ton of shots. And it's just, It's I don't know.
Yeah, see, I'm not a large slate person. I don't love them, but I do enjoy them when we have injury news and we have just a lot of information that's going to help us narrow the slate down. To me, that's just more exciting of a slate, and I can actually have fun with it. Mutt, what about you? How do you feel about slates like this?
Yeah, I'm more with Keg on this. I don't, because the tournament plays are so hard to nail with so much different combinations you can make out there. I'm more of a cash guy on slates like this, but where you have that value already open too,
and you see some like crazy lineups that win like the 15 on DK on slates like this, because it's like there's just so many ways to go, and you'll see like 1% guys. Like, how in the crap did that get on that team? Unless the chalk just absolutely smashes on slates like this, like the good chalk.
Yeah, agreed. I think for me, I have the most success on slates like this when the chalk smashes, and then my 1 or 2 pivots are also go off. And then that's when you're able to take down a tournament like this. I don't try to get super cute because that's just not my strategy. Anyway, let's get into the slate. The first game on deck are the Nets against the Wizards. We have Kyrie Irving suspended, so he's going to be out for a while. How are you guys feeling about Kevin Durant in a spot like this, where he's going to be the stud on this team?
He's too cheap on both sites right now with Kyrie out. I think he's what, 10K on DK and 10.4 on FanDuel. That's an easy cash play, like easy, especially against the Wizards.
Okay, what about you? Are you going to be all on Kevin Durant as well?
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing cash, it's not even a decision with the value that we're going to have. I think from the tournament side, though, is because of how, on a 12-game slate, how popular it's going to be. If you think the Wizards are going to take it to him and just focus on him, because that team sucks. Let's just get real. Yeah. That team is horrible because they spent so much money what they did with Harden Simmons, and they have basically 3 dudes and a bunch of trash dudes. Now, basically O'Neal's got to hit his threes today if they're going to have a chance. Mills going to have to hit his threes. Those guys are going to have to hit. But I think it's a worthwhile fade in those large field GPPs, maybe to fade him, and hopefully he doesn't get there. He's going to have all the usage in the world. If his shot's falling, you're dead. Yeah. But if they do get up on him and just pound him, and he doesn't, only puts up 40 DraftKings points instead of the 60 or 70 he will if it's close, that's where you're going to get ahead. And that's the decision you got to make in those.
Yeah, I agree 110%. Kevin Durant is definitely someone you can pivot off of with some of the other studs that are on this slate. But the value options in this game are definitely interesting. For the Nets, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving own the usage on this team. Everything runs through them. But last game, we saw Royce O'Neal get involved a little bit as well. If someone else on this team starts to get some of that leftover usage with Kyrie out, they can definitely surpass value. And I think you start to see that with guys like Watanabe, who saw some nice minutes last game, Patty Mills and Edmund Sumner. I think they're definitely all interesting plays as well.
Sumner's a guy I love in GPPs because he's been getting minutes even with Kyrie in.
Okay,
and just for numbers usage-wise, Durant is at a 41% usage rate this season with no Simmons and Kyrie on the floor, which is crazy.
Yeah. Great, fantastic cash play. And you can still play Durant in GPPs and then pivot elsewhere. Definitely still viable. Outside of that, any interest in the Wizards, guys?
None for me.
No, not really. Not a ton.
Not on the slate.
No one's really standing out for me either. I think Porzingis, you can definitely still utilize a big against the Nets. Definitely has some interest, but no one that I'm really going to try to force into lineups too heavily. Next game on deck, the Miami Heat against the Indiana Pacers. We have a few guys questionable here. We have Bam Adebayo questionable, which is something that we definitely want to keep a good eye on. It looks like we have Jimmy Butler still out, I believe.
He's
Am
out.
I thinking about that the right way? Nice. Okay. So definitely a lot of usage here. Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry are guys that are definitely standing out. Yeah. What are y'all's thoughts on the Miami Heat?
Yeah, Hero. Dude's a stud.
Hero.
Yeah, he's going to chuck up a ton of shots.
He's going to shoot like 35 times.
Yeah, and I don't care if Bam is in or out. That doesn't dictate my thoughts on Hero.
Bam went through shoot around. So.
Okay, so it's like, yeah, he's going to do it. Now, I hate playing little fat man Kyle Lowry. I really do. But, he's looked good like the last couple games,
Yeah.
My only big issue with Miami is this is 3 games. Like they played 3 games in 4 days, man.
Yeah.
And
They've
so
been
they could
playing
have
a
some
lot.
tired legs. And Indy's been, I think they're on 2 or 3 days rest. So, and they're a young team and they can get up and down. So, but that doesn't mean Hero shots falling. He can put up a 50 or 60 burger anytime. So I still have interest in those guys, but that just worries me with the tired legs a little bit.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And like you mentioned, like Lowry to start the season off, I didn't think he was going to make it through. But I think he's got in better shape, so he's definitely starting to perform a lot better. And I think I have interest and I want pieces and exposure to this team, just kind of in general. Even guys like Duncan Robinson, I'm okay getting some exposure to. If Duncan Robinson becomes chalky, though, guys, I'm not going to be on it. We've seen chalky Duncan Robinson fail so many times. I'm not here for it. What about you, Mutt? Like, any interest?
0 on Duncan Robinson. No. I'll have some Lowry, not much, but it'll be mostly Hero for me. And then you can run him back with Hallie. That dude's been a stud this year.
Yeah, he's been on fire.
He's been free money for props.
Yeah, for props.
Like he's just like at 30.5. Like they just don't move.
Nope.
He gets like 35, 36 every
points
game.
and assist is, I don't think, I have to pull it up, but he's hit it at least 6 out of 8 games. I think he's hit it this year. And being on rest like this, and now the numbers are going to look, if you look at anything in Indiana and you're looking at defensive numbers, it's going to say, well, it's not the best matchup in the world. But again, Jimmy Butler is a big hit to them defensively. And so you can't always just take those numbers for face value. You kind of have to dig in a little bit more on those things.
Yeah, that's a great point. And speaking about the Pacers side of things, for me, if Nesmith is in, I'm a lot less interested in guys like Benedict McThurin and Chris Duarte, and really just this team in general. If Nesmith is out, I'm okay going back to the well with Mathurin and Duarte. What are y'all's thoughts? Do y'all have any interest in the Pacers side of it, or is it really just Heat only?
Like I said, I do like Hallie. I mean, I'll do some Duarte if, like you said, if I can't even think of his name right now, is out again. But Nesmith, yeah. What a waste of a draft pick that was.
I know, right?
Yeah, if Nesmith is out, I'll have some Duarte just because he can get hot from 3. But I mean, other than that, this isn't really a game I'm going to be too heavy on. Just like Keg said, the pace isn't going to be that high. The Heat are still solid defensively, not as good with Jimmy out.
Right.
But I just don't see this game going to like one of those games where it's like 120 to 122. Like, no,
this is a game, if you're setting rules or something, I'd only want one guy from each team and per lineup. I wouldn't want multiple pieces in a 12-game slate. So I'd set a rule of just having, no more than one Miami guy or no more than one Indiana guy in a lineup. That way I'm not, even if you bump the guys up for ceiling, you're not going to get them jammed 2 or 3 because no way they're going to be in the nuts lineup.
I think I'll be okay with like a Kyle Lowry and Hero on the same line. I think I would, just at their price.
I think if it was a 6 or 7 game slate, I would, but on a 12-game slate, it's so hard for the things to get. I think, not saying it couldn't happen, but it's so hard to think of that they would be in the same lineup in terms of that. But yeah, they're both priced where you could get a 40 burger out of Lowry and 50 out of Hero, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. So.
What about you, Kek? Do you have any interest in some of the value on the Miami Heat side, like the Strus, the Vincent, the Robinson?
Not on this slate. I just don't think you need it. I mean,
There's better value.
Yeah, I just don't think you need to go there.
Okay. Next game, Cleveland Cavaliers against the Detroit Pistons. Quite a few injury concerns here. Donovan Mitchell is questionable. Darius Garland is questionable. Raul Neto is questionable. That matters a little bit less. On the Pistons side of it, we have Jalen Duren, who's probable. Alec Burks, we already know he's been out. Bagley, he's been out. So quite a few injury concerns, primarily on the Cleveland side, that will extremely dominate and impact how we play this slate. Mutt, how are you thinking about this game here?
Yeah, the big one's Mitchell, obviously. He has the most usage. I mean, plus you have Garland coming off a huge game. So I'm not really, even if he does play, I'm not expecting him to repeat that. But I mean, if those guys are out, I'm going to be all over LeVert just because, I mean, he's going to be way too cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, and he is going to see ball handling duties for sure if those guys end up being out as well. So Levert's someone that I would be excited to play in that spot. And even guys like C.D. Osman would come into play too if Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are out. So definitely lineups are going to start to look weird depending on how injury news goes. Outside of that, Keg, do you have any interest on the Pistons side of things, like maybe guys like Cade Cunningham?
I think it all depends on the Cleveland side. So
Okay.
Luckily, it's a 7 p.m. game. We're going to know before tip because it is going to dictate, like Mutt said with Levert. It's really going to be hard, especially both those dudes are out. I don't know if you watched Garland, like, he had that eye injury. Like that last game they played, and they were doing the damn interview, and you looked at his eye. His eye looked like, how did you play a basketball game, dude? Like, it looked like it's popping out of his head.
And how did you crush?
Yeah, I was like,
playing basketball.
Wow. He was like, he said he shot that first shot, and he was just like, yeah, it went in. So I figured it was good. And I was like, man, I don't know.
I didn't know it was that bad. I had no clue.
I never saw it, and then getting the first view of it in context, I was like, holy crap. But if both those guys are out, man, that changes so much of the slate. Like you said, with the Levert usage, I have to run the numbers, but I'm assuming it's just massive. But we don't really have a ton to go off of because Garland and Mitchell have not played too much together, and so, but yeah, that would dictate a ton on the Detroit side, man. It's just like, I think it dictates that as well. Cause if Mitchell and Garland are out, maybe this is a Cade Cunningham ceiling game. I hate playing him, but he just always has that like 50 or 60 burger in him. And it irritates the crap out of me because it's usually when I'm not on him and then and he throws it out there. So I don't want anything on the Detroit side. If those guys are in, if they're out, maybe a Cunningham, that'd be it.
Yeah, I agree. They're one of the few teams that are healthy on this slate, so that always makes them less interesting. Next game, we have
just got one more.
Oh, you have one more?
If you're looking,
go ahead.
If Garland and Mitchell are out,
mm-hmm.
last 7 games, Detroit allowing over 55 fantasy points to power forwards. So Evan Mobley at like 5.9 or 6K would be a really sneaky tournament play that not many people are going to be on.
I like that.
The stocks upside with him, man, with the blocks and steals are just massive, especially on FanDuel where they just count for an absorbent amount of points.
He's so cheap on FanDuel too.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what his price is on DK, but I know he's like
6,100 on DraftKings.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah, he's still right there. 100% agree with that.
Yeah. All right, next game up, we have the 76ers against the New York Knicks. This is another game with a lot of injury news. Melton was healthy. A lot of you guys should know James Harden is out, and he'll be out for a while. Joel Embiid is questionable with a sickness. Matthias Thybulle is questionable with an ankle injury. And then the New York Knicks are healthy. So the team that we're really looking at today are the 76ers. Maxey looks fantastic tonight. Keg, how are you thinking about this game?
Well, I think we talked a little bit like with Durant. I mean, Maxey and Melton are just chalk. You just throw them in your cash lineup. You just move on. And I can eat chalk like Maxey and Melton more than I can Durant because at price, even if they don't have a massive ceiling game, they can probably still get there with a mediocre game. I hate they're playing the Knicks. I wish they were playing like Houston or somebody, but at price, man, and the amount of the volume that Maxey's going to shoot, it's just so hard not to take him.
Yeah. Like Maxey's one of those guys. He's not going to play it safe and just try to fill it out. He's going to force the matter and make it happen, which is something that you want when you're playing someone.
Now let's talk about pricing because on FanDuel he's 8,200, so it's a little bit different. Where on DraftKings he's 6,500. So on FanDuel, I'm not saying don't play him. I'd have him anyways, but like on DraftKings, the 6,500 is just stupid. He should be 8,500 on DraftKings. Like he's just so mispriced, regardless if Embiid plays or not.
And we have Madness coming in, who's also a DFS Army coach, with the data stating that 41% usage rate for Embiid with Harden and Curry off the floor last season. And I think he's right. Embiid would be a very sneaky GPP play if he ends up playing, that I would be excited to play. The Knicks is not the best matchup for him, but he's priced a little bit lower than we've seen him in a while, and I'll be excited to attack this spot for him just because we know he has upside in smash spots, especially in a spread that's not too wide. Keg, Mutt, do you guys hate that? Are you guys like, what are you thinking, man? Or are you guys here for it?
Maxi on DK's free square in cash.
Right.
Like, you don't even have to double think that. Him and Melton. FanDuel, you have to think about it more. I have noticed that FanDuel is catching up a lot quicker on their pricing when guys get hurt compared to the last few years.
They have.
Like,
you
they've been
that too?
really good about it.
They've cranked on that algorithm a little bit, man. They go up quick, faster than DraftKings.
I think we're way overlooking Tobias Harris here too in GPPs, especially if Embiid's out. I mean, what's he? He's cheap too.
Yeah. Tobias Harris at 5,800 is definitely going to be in play. I like him, like you said, more if Embiid's out, but makes a ton of sense. So definitely a game that we want to attack. Any interest in the Knicks side of it, though?
Honestly, I know this isn't going to be a popular play, but if Embiid is in, I actually like Mitchell Robinson here.
Okay.
Because Hartenstein cannot handle Embiid. Like, that's just going to be like abuse.
Very true.
You could see Mitch get 30 minutes here, block a few shots. Like, he had a big game the other night. Even he only played like 25 minutes. That dude can get like 5-6 blocks if he gets hot. Rebounds, layups, putbacks.
Yeah,
this is a great spot. He's cheap on FanDuel.
Because anytime you get those guys that get a lot of blocks, they're just so valuable on FanDuel.
True. What about you, Keg? Any interest? Personally, for me, I don't really have a ton of interest in these Knicks guys, but what about you, Keg?
No, I mean, all year I really haven't. I mean, I've played Brunson every now and then on slates, but on a slate this large, I don't think you need any of it.
Yeah.
Is Barrett still wicked cheap? He was like 4,800 the other day.
He's 6,400 on DraftKings, 58 on FanDuel. So
I'm not interested in anymore.
Still, I mean, like, he's been consistent, but there's no ceiling. Like, if we look 34, 25, 29, 33, 29. Like, he's a great cash play, I think, against this team, but I wouldn't play him in tournaments.
Like a 5 or 6 game slate, he would be in play, but not.
Yeah.
I just agree. Just too much. Brunson just sucks up too much usage, and it just hurts the ceiling. You just don't have it. He just needs to shoot.
And they're healthy, and when they're all healthy, I'm just less interested in them, unfortunately. Will be an interesting team to play if one of them go down for a little bit, though. Next game, we have the Celtics against the Chicago Bulls. Once again, Kobe White is doubtful, so that will keep things interesting for us. And that's really the only big news for this game. We definitely have our studs like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in this game that should come in at low ownership. Same with pretty much everyone in this game. Like, no one's really standing out for me. But what about you guys? Keg, Mutt, any interest in this game?
Go ahead, Keg.
Yeah, I think on the Bull side, with basically the three-headed monster all playing, it's really hard to trust them. With DeRozan and Levine. What was weird is the juice was really heavy on Levine's points. Mm-hmm. So I was like, man, is there like like some news that it's not getting out yet? Like DeRozan going to sit or something like that? Or is it just because his points are sitting around 21.5 where it's just like he can get there when he gets hot? But it's like, those three guys, it's really hard to touch those guys.
Or maybe people trying to chase his hot performance.
And it's just, and then in Boston, same kind of thing, man. Tatum and Brown, and I just don't trust Smart and Horford a ton. So it's just a spot where I don't think you need it on a slate this large where there's other places to get good value.
Yeah. Like, I'm not against anyone here, but no one really stands out. So I agree 110%. This next game is a bit more interesting. We have on the Hornets side of it, Terry Rozier still doubtful, Cody Martin still doubtful. Gordon Hayward was hurt in the last game, so he's out. That's a dramatic change on this team. And so that definitely gives a nice boost to Jalen McDaniels, who started the second half of that last game that Hayward was out for. So we have a nice value piece in McDaniels with the Hornets. On the Memphis side, for once, we actually don't have much injury news for them. So nice change of pace from the Memphis side. Mutt, how do you feel about this Hornets value?
Yeah, like you said, I like McDaniels for sure, especially if he starts. Kelly Oubre, he'll definitely jack up like 20 plus shots here tonight.
Yeah.
With Hayward out. Not really on Dennis Smith. Just never someone I really like when he's over 6K, even when he's starting, just because he's so inconsistent. And yeah, not a ton outside of Oubre and McDaniels for me personally. Maybe some PJ Washington, but.
What about you, Keg? Any interest in this team?
Yeah, nothing that I'm trying to like force in lineups, but I mean, McDaniels, if he starts, is just way too stinking cheap.
Yeah.
I'll have some Smith because there is upside there, but to me, it's like if Oubre's shot's not following with this team, there's not a chance, man, that like Memphis could just stomp a mud hole in them. And then you're just, those guys are all going to fail. Yeah, right. What Madness said right there. Like if that happens, that's when you play a little book night. But Madness does have a pretty big chub for that dude. So we should get him in there and he can talk about him. But like,
yeah, I need to know. I need to know where's this love coming from.
He just got arrested a few weeks ago, didn't he?
Well, that's that dude played
like
the
night after.
The night after because they didn't have anybody else, and he played. I'm like, that dude just got arrested. I think he had a gun in there as well. Like, I don't know the whole thing in the story, but I was like, how that guy just get a DUI with possession of a firearm? And he played that day. It's like
because he looks like a saint compared to Miles Bridges. That's why.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The Charlotte police were like, "This is a much better situation. You're good,
there's
man."
No way you play book night unless you feel like this is blowing out and he's just getting garbage time run because the dude can score. I mean, he can put up a ton of points. Yeah. It's like a deep GPP play.
That's MME too. That's
not an MME 100%.
And you're 5% maybe.
And you have a rule where you're only playing that dude and you're not playing Oubre or Smith with him. Like it's just those guys didn't get there and he's getting fourth quarter run and just jacking shots up.
Hey, I'm just happy you mentioned Dennis Smith Jr. because I got nervous when Mutt said he wasn't on him. Because like you mentioned, Kay, I just feel like he has upside in this spot and at this price still. And I'm a sucker for his story.
He's on my list. He's made my list too many times.
He has upside, but it's just the game's got to be close. And if that's the case, you better bring something back from Memphis then, because
Speaking of, how do you guys feel about the Memphis side? Like, are you guys on Morant, Bane, Brooks, any of those guys at all? Keg, any love?
It's so hard. It's
not with everyone healthy.
It's the slate size. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's like
if Dylan Brooks would just sit down and like blow out an ankle for a bit or something, so those other guys can play, then I'd have some interest. But that dude just thinks he's Michael Jordan, and when he's on the court, he's got such a cocky attitude. I just can't stand watching.
It's so sad to see.
I hate it. It's like, just sit down. Just sit down.
I hate to say this, but if anyone should have been hit in the NBA,
that whole rotation when it comes to
should have been punched in the face.
I can't stand it.
Anyway,
like this could be a jaw ceiling game, but I mean, are you going to chase it that much? I don't think you need to with what we have on a big slate.
But he is a pivot option that I think you should consider.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. You should have a little bit of him for sure. Your pivot off of Durant. I mean,
in case he goes like Luka usage tonight.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Next game on deck, we have the Clippers against the Spurs. Kawhi's out again. No surprise there. At this point, that's the new usual, the new normal. Looks like Keldon Johnson is healthy. Looks like Jeremy Sochan is healthy. Looks like Devin Vassell is healthy. So definitely a lot less questions there. Isaiah Roby is questionable, and Zach Collins is questionable, along with Romeo Langford. So a lot of the big names, their starters are now healthy, but a lot of the bench guys are now questionable for tonight. Any interest in the Spurs here tonight? It probably does depend on who ends up being in or out, but any initial love here, guys?
Vassell, but it's not really a love because you never know with Pop. That's the thing. He's been out the past 3 games.
That's the thing. Yeah, he hasn't played. He's been out 4 games now. And he's priced up to his ceiling. Like, I mean, even when he was playing great, I mean, he had 48, 35, 41 in those 3 games. But, the Clippers and if he was 4,500, yes, give me some interest because I think he could still get there if he only got like 28 minutes. But like Mutt was referring to with Pop, man, Pop could run 12 guys out there and it wouldn't surprise anybody at all. So I just not real interest on a slate this big, worth the prices that they are. I don't think you need to go that way.
Yeah, like for me, I'm not super interested initially, but if guys like Collins and Roby and Langford start to fall and they start to get out, and the Spurs get lower and lower on numbers, then they might need these guys who are returning from injury to play heavier minutes. So we get some.
That's the case. I'd be on Keldon.
Mm-hmm. On Keldon?
I'm not on Sochan at all.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And then the other side of this are the Clippers. We know what this team looks like. We know how they act. For me personally, John Wall, he has all of the usage on this team when he's on the floor, but he's still splitting minutes with Reggie Jackson. So that limits my interest in him until we see John Wall play more minutes. And then Paul George, he hasn't really had a ceiling performance when John Wall is healthy. And so that kind of gets me off him as well. What about you guys? Keg, do you have any interest in these Clippers?
Nope. Full fade. Only time I'm playing them is with both Kawhi and Wall. They're not playing,
yep.
and then CP or PG-13 will go nuclear. That's the only time I'm touching that guy.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed. Same here. What about you, Mutt?
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah, I think that's Wall the right read on it
for him.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's just Wall's usage. All right.
Reggie Jackson sucks too. But
yeah.
Hey, I still believe in Reggie Jackson, but John Wall hurt us.
It. No, I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna boot you out of your own show. Don't start.
Wall will be taking over that spot within the next.
It's just a matter of time before he has all the minutes.
All right, guys.
Slip in the shower. That's all he's got to do.
It is. But see, it is John. It's John Wall's team. They're just waiting, I guess. Anyway, next game: Mavericks versus Raptors. Not a ton of injury news here. The biggest thing is Fred VanVleet is questionable once again. We've seen the Raptors play a lot here recently. I think we pretty much know at this point if Fred VanVleet's out, we're interested in these starters. But guys, Mutt, do you have any interest in this game, at least as of right now?
As of right now, unless FVV's out, no, not really.
Okay.
I really don't. I mean, obviously Luka. But I mean, he has like a 70% usage rate at this point this year. So, unless Fred's out, not really anyone I'm getting to on a big slate like this.
Yeah, I mean, there's even guys on the Maverick side of things like Spencer Dinwiddie, who's surprisingly seeing like a 22% usage rate, has started to have some ceiling performances. Any interest in a guy like him, Keg?
Yeah, because the one thing that Nick Nurse does against stud players like Luka is they're gonna trap the shit out of him. They're gonna go after him. And not saying Luka can't split it or do whatever the hell he wants, but it's gonna slow him down a little bit. Where I don't think we're gonna see a ceiling game out of him. Now I say that, and then in about 10 hours from now, I'm
90 fantasy points incoming.
But overall, Nurse generally takes away those guys and forces the secondary and tertiary pieces to beat them. So, maybe that's where we see Dinwiddie get more usage, or, Wood in the second unit, or, Finney Smith hits some more shots or something. I'm like nobody that I'm dying to play, but I think it just kind of like gets me on. I mean, 12-4 for Luka, man. He's got to have that game. And
that's the issue. That's a fifth of your salary.
Yeah, I just can't play him. And I just think that they're going to continue to take him away. Like, that team is not great without him. They didn't really improve from last year. Yeah, they got more bench scoring, which they needed with Wood, which they had to have. But other than that, when Luka is off the court they still have to have someone that can facilitate the offense and get it going, and they just don't. When he's off the court, they suck.
Yeah. So, and Christian Wood, he's just not seeing enough minutes for me to really consider playing. So for me, if I'm going to have a pivot, it's going to be Spencer Dinwiddie. But I agree with all of your takes at this point. I think the only way I'll really be interested in the Raptors would be as if FVV's out, but since we don't know about that yet, not worth really digging into a ton. The next game on deck, we have the Pelicans against the Golden State Warriors. This is another game where we have some potential injury news. Klay Thompson is currently TBD, so we will see if he plays. This is them on the back end of a back-to-back. So there is a chance we might get some of their other starters sitting out. On the Pelican side of things, the big news is Brandon Ingram is probable and Herb Jones is also probable. So nothing really too set in stone here as of yet. But Keg, how are you feeling about the Golden State Warriors knowing that Klay Thompson might be out?
Meh. I mean, like Wiggins, maybe Poole finally gets us going, but it's they're on a back-to-back, and it's just I don't know, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the younger guys that I'm more interested in because of the back-to-back, like Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole.
Yeah, I don't see Klay playing tonight.
I don't either.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah,
but it's like if with Ingram being probable, I mean they're back to full health, and that team is good when they're. The team is going to be good this year when they're all playing. Now, how many games that going to be this year? Who knows, man? It could be a handful, 10%.
I don't think when you have Zion and Ingram on the same team, like, come on, how are you going to have a healthy team?
And you can't play them because they're all over 8K, so you can't play those guys in fantasy. But I also think it just helps defensively against the Golden State Warriors. So I don't really have any interest in this game much, honestly.
Yeah. If Ingram or Jones end up being out, would you start to have a little bit more interest into guys like Zion and CJ, perhaps? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, anytime those guys are going to be out, but tonight they're all going to play. So it's like
nothing to worry about.
It's one of those things you got to have at least two of them out, and then if it's just CJ or if it's just CJ and Zion, we saw CJ do really well, but when they're all three healthy and they're over 8K, you just kind of have to move on.
Yeah. For me, I think I will be heavy on Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins if Klay is out, and I'm going to be excited to do it. I'll have the biggest smile on my face. All right, a few more games left. We have the Bucks against the Timberwolves. Giannis is probable, but we think he's probably going to play. On the Timberwolves side of it, Anthony Edwards is questionable. Rudy Gobert is questionable. So definitely some potential minutes for guys like Jaden McDaniels, Jalen Noel, a laundry list of potential guys that could be more exciting to play. Mutt, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but when the Wolves got Gobert, they became like the most frustrating fantasy team to like play.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have Cat in this like 9, he was like 8'5" at one point. It's like you want to play him, but he's not going to rebound like he did last year. Like Gobert is just going to do everything on the glass. So he's just going to run up and down the court, take some threes. It's like, I just don't get that dynamic between the two of them.
I think Cat is just like Anthony Davis, and he just really doesn't want to play center. I think that has to be it. They're just like, I don't want to get beat up every night. I think that has to be their thought process. Even though I'd be kind of frustrated if I was Rudy Gobert in that situation.
If you watch their games, man, they've had the easiest out the gate schedule humanly possible. OKC, Utah, OKC, Spurs back to back. Lakers, Spurs, and then they played Phoenix. Like, who makes the schedule? I was like, yeah, here is 6 of the trashiest teams that we got that don't play defense, and they should have blown every one of those teams out, and they haven't. Like, they haven't figured it out yet. But
they're
like
just destined to be a bad franchise.
At
this point, it is what
I just did not get that at all. I get Cat doesn't want to bang and play the 5, but that doesn't make it made the team any better. Like Cat wants to sit out there and shoot threes. But he's got no lateral movement, man. Like, you get out there and you get anyone that's got some speed out on and he's got to guard an athletic 4. He's gone. He's going right by that dude. So I don't know. I don't like it. I think it was stupid to pay that much money for him.
And it hurts Edwards too.
Yeah,
it does too. And from like a DFS standpoint, it's become, like you guys have both said, super frustrating and really hard to predict. So I wouldn't be mad if one of them don't play tonight. It might open things up a little bit and make it a little bit easier. Yeah. Like if Gobert was down, I would be all over Cat tonight without a question.
Yeah. And going against Lopez. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he can shoot the 3, or she can beat Milwaukee in for years, and it's just 100%.
What are y'all's thoughts on Milwaukee if Giannis goes down? I mean, I think we would definitely play Giroux and Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis. I think that's the route I would go. But since he's probable, it looks like he's probably going to play. So not super likely, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not really on anybody from Milwaukee unless Giannis is out.
Okay. Any big takeaways from this game for you, Keg?
Not really. I mean, Giannis is going to play, and it's like I might have a splash of Portis just because they might need his size with how big. If everyone plays on Minnesota's side, just because of how big they are. But again, he's not like cheap. If he's like $5K, I'd love him, but he's at that price where there's not really any meat left on the bone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, madness. No one cares about the Bucks.
Yeah.
Hey, I love Giannis, but the rest of the Bucks as a whole, I don't really care. Next game, Portland Trailblazers against the Suns. Simmons is questionable. That's huge for them because Simmons is the usage monster on this team. Trendon Watford is doubtful. On the Suns side of it, it looks like DeAndre Ayton's actually going to play, so he's probable. And then we have Torrey Craig, who's also probable, and then Cam Payne is questionable. So definitely some interesting news that we're waiting on. But Keg, how are you feeling about the Trailblazers tonight?
I think it's going to be a bad spot for them. I really do.
I mean, Suns really good defensively, but they're
10-point dogs already. Like, and it's like if Simmons is out, if Simons is out, I mean, Josh Hart at 6,500. Like those guys would have to have ceiling games to compete here. Sharp at 4,500 become interesting because I think he'd get blowout run as well.
Yeah.
So it's like he would be the one I'd have interested in.
Keon Johnson.
Keon
Johnson's someone who falls through the cracks a lot for me personally. So
Keon Johnson shots when he's up there.
What's that?
He just jacks up shots when he's out there.
He would be a GPP play for sure. But
any interest in like Booker or Paul? For me, no. I think there's better pay ups, but
not with Ayton playing. It's just there's no reason to go to this team.
If Cameron Payne was out, that might force Chris Paul to play slightly more minutes. I'm trying to think of a reason, but even with Cameron Payne being out, I still think there will be better plays on the slate.
Yeah, because they could just give Damian Lee his minutes. It's not really
I mean, they got Shamet, Lee, like they got plenty of it.
So I don't think I'll really get there, but overall, I agree. All right, last game on the slate is always everyone's favorite, a good old Lakers game. They'll be facing the Utah Jazz. The Jazz have Fontecchio questionable. I don't think that really changes too much for him. LeBron James, the Lakers, they have LeBron James being probable per usual. Anthony Davis is questionable per usual. I think we can probably assume they both play, or what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, they should both play.
They play this. Yeah. It's the infinite questionable tag as long as they're in NBA. Like he'll play.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton of interest in this game personally. I know people are loving that Russell Westbrook is starting to do a little bit better off the bench. I'm sure we'll get some comments of some people trying to lock him in, but I don't have any interest. Keg, Mutt, you guys have any interest in this game? Anyone who really stands out for you guys?
I like Clarkson a little bit, just little narrative there, but
yeah, it's true. Revenge.
GPP, nothing crazy.
Okay. Any interest in like Lauri Markkanen?
Not at his price, because he's already shown it this year. He can have those ceiling games, but he can have some really bad games too. And if you're waiting all night for him in the hammer game and he duds, you're screwed.
Yeah, there's just better plays on this 12 gamer. But what about you, Keg?
I have some interest in Lauri. The Lakers are 30th in rebound rate. They just cannot rebound. And if his shot is falling, you're probably guaranteed a double-double out of him. It's just there is upside there. And like you're talking about Westbrook, he's got to be so efficient off the bench, but he's priced on DraftKings at 6,300. I don't know if he has a 40 burger out of him, which you'd need 40 plus out of him at that price. So it's like
you take down a GPP.
Yeah. It's tough, Anthony Davis 9,100 is too cheap for his upside. I think he won't have a lot. If questionable tag, no one's is gonna play. He makes a great tournament option because he'll be sub 10% for sure on the slate, and he's got 60, 70 point upside, and so you got to consider him anytime he's under 10K. Because I think LeBron knows if he doesn't get AD going at all, they don't have a damn chance. Like, they're tough to watch. But like if he doesn't get that dude to play and play at his potential, like they ain't gonna win anything.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Maybe they want to try to go for him. Like, hey, we're trying.
Tank for Victor.
Exactly. Take for Victor at the Lakers. Yeah, that's what they're trying, man.
Any interest in Colin Sexton tonight, Mutt?
At that price, yeah.
Yeah, he's really cheap, and his minutes are starting to trend in the right direction.
Up, yeah.
4,400 on DraftKings. That's pretty good. William FanDuel 5K. Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, definitely still always risk involved when it comes to guys like Sexton, but definitely.
But you're going Chuck, man. That dude, he ain't afraid to shoot. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's still not in the starting lineup yet, but I know he was out for a little bit, so that's probably why. All right, guys. Well, we got through it. We got through this massive slate. Any ending statements you guys want to say just about this slate in general, your overall strategy for it before we go for?
Please don't play Alex Caruso. I don't know why we get that in the chat every night the Bulls play. There's no need.
No, you're not on Caruso. What do you mean?
I get multiple Caruso questions every night the Bulls play.
People love that guy, man. I mean, I get it. I understand the love, but I agree. There's not really need to go there. What about you, Keg? Any last standing statements for the slate?
No, with so much injury news and that early Cleveland news that's going to dictate a few plays, you're going to have to be in the Discord and see what's going on with the injury news that drop and see where things change. Because on a slate this large, if you're not going to be around all night long, don't play.
Yeah, that was going to be my last statement. It's just be ready to be on top of the news, be in the Discord, listen to Upper Slad, Mutt, Madness in the chat, like listen to the advice and just be ready to change your lines because you're going to have to. Along with that, make sure you keep your computer on so you're able to make those changes when you have to close the lock because it's going to be one of those nights tonight. Outside of that, I appreciate everyone joining and watching. Mutt, Keg, it's been great having you. We'll have the DFS pre-lock show later today at 4 p.m. It'll be a show with Upper Slad, so we'll have a lot of great news insight from him, along with just some general strategy information to
I'll
watch.
Be around too.
Mutt,
I'll be around too if you want. Yeah,
join as well. Yeah. Nice. I'm not going to pressure you on it, but I'd love to have you, man. So we'll have Mutt and Upper Slad at 4 p.m. for the pre-lock show. To watch the pre-lock show, you have to be a VIP DFS Army member. Click the link in the description and feel free to use promo code BOB for a 10% discount. Outside of that, guys, look forward to seeing you later today. Good luck. Take down some tournaments. Let's get it. Peace.